Hey guys and gals, this is Tyler, aka True Tactics 2, here with episode 2 of the Rangers Trilogy. Now, as I said in episode 1, after the American Civil War, an official Ranger unit wouldn't appear for over 70 years. Finally, this would change during World War II. Soon after the U.S. entered the war, there was a proposal to create an American unit that operated along the same lines as the British Commandos. This was soon authorized, and the 1st U.S. Army Ranger Battalion was activated. The name Ranger was selected because the commando name belonged to the British, and the commanders wanted a more American name. So it fit to name them after the Rangers from the early American history. In 1942, 2,000 hand-picked volunteers led by Major William Darby took part in a rigorous training program under the tutelage of the British Commandos. By the end of the program, only 500 men were left. These men became the 1st Army Ranger Battalion. 50 of these Rangers took part in the Dieppe Raid. These men would be the first American ground soldiers to see action against the Germans in Europe. 3 Rangers were killed, and several were captured. However, all of them won the respect of the commandos. Under the leadership of Darby, who was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, the 1st Ranger Battalion spearheaded the North African invasion at the port of Arzoul in Algeria. There, they silenced 2 gun batteries and opened the way for the 1st Infantry Division to capture Oran. They also carried out crucial night raids in Tunisia and participated in the Battle of El Gheta. Darby then created 2 more battalions, the 3rd and the 4th, near the end of the Tunisia campaign in 1943. All 3 battalions, the 1st, 3rd, and 4th, would be collectively referred to as Darby's Rangers, or the Ranger Force. This unit would spearhead the invasion of Sicily at Gela and Licata, and also participated in the conquest of Messina. The 3 battalions were then the 1st, 5th Army troops to land during the Italian invasion near Salerno. They then quickly seized the strategic heights on both sides of the Chunzi Pass and then fought off 8 German counterattacks for 18 days. All 3 battalions later would participate in fierce winter combat near San Pietro, Venafro, and Cassino. However, in early 1944, Darby's Rangers suffered a severe setback. The 1st and 3rd battalions had infiltrated 5 miles behind the German lines, while the 4th Battalion fought to clear the road toward Cisterna. However, the Germans had reinforced their lines the night before in preparations for a massive counterattack against the Allies. The 3rd and the 1st found themselves completely surrounded and greatly outnumbered. While they fought bravely, they soon ran out of ammo and time. Of the 767 men in the Ranger Force, 761 were killed or captured. The 4th also suffered heavy casualties. The survivors were sent back to the U.S. and transferred to the Special Service Force, which was a joint Canadian-American Special Operations Unit. However, this wasn't the end of the Rangers, and other units proudly carried the Ranger name during World War II. The first of these units was the 2nd Ranger Battalion, which was formed in April of 1943. This unit was commanded by Lieutenant Colonel James Reuter. It was trained at Camp Forest, Tennessee. In September of 1943, the 5th Ranger Battalion was formed and also trained at Camp Forest. They were under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Max Schneider. Both units would participate in the landings at Normandy. 3 companies of 2nd Battalion assaulted the cliffs of Pointe du Hoc and scaled it under intense machine gun fire, as well as mortar and artillery fire. They then destroyed a large gun battery. Then they went on to fight for 2 days without relief until the 5th Ranger Battalion linked up with them. The 5th Ranger Battalion landed on Omaha Beach and under withering machine gun fire broke through the seawall and barbed wire entanglements and opened a breach for supporting troops. Once 5th met with 2nd, they carried out attacks against German fortifications. The 6th Ranger Battalion was formed in September of 1944 under the command of Colonel Henry Mucci. This unit would become the first American force to return to the Philippines with the goal of destroying coastal gun defenses, radio, and radar stations. They also took part in landing at Luzon and carried out several behind-the-lines raids and penetrations. They also participated in the rescue of 500 sick and emaciated POWs located 30 miles behind enemy lines. Carrying many of the rescued prisoners on their back, the Rangers were aided by Filipino commandos, had killed over 200 of the garrison, evaded 2 Japanese regiments, and reached the American lines the following day. This would become known as the greatest and most daring raid in American military history. One more unit was the 5,307th Composite Unit. While not Rangers by name, they carried out Ranger-type missions in Burma in 1944. They were trained to perform long-range patrols and function in the enemy's flank. This force was under the command of Brigadier General Frank D. Merrill, and soon became known as Merrill's Marauders. This unit would endure Burma's harsh climate, dense terrain, as well as fatigue and diseases. Despite these hardships, they still soundly defeated veteran Japanese soldiers in 35 engagements. Finally, they would complete their campaign at Miakiaina Airfield. Suffering heavy losses from exhaustion and illness, they were still able to overcome the Japanese soldiers there and seize the airfield. When World War II ended, the Rangers were disbanded, just as they had been after other conflicts in America's past. Then, with the outbreak of hostilities in Korea in 1950, it seemed like Rangers were needed again. The call soon went out for volunteers who were willing to accept hazardous duty in the combat zone in Korea. Within the 82nd Airborne, this call for volunteers was met with an astounding result. An estimated 5,000 men volunteered. The rigorous sorting out process soon began, and those selected were then shipped to Fort Benning, Georgia for training. 3 companies began training and were soon joined by another. Of these 4 companies, one would become the 2nd Ranger Infantry Company, which was the only authorized all-black Ranger unit in U.S. history. All the volunteers were professional soldiers with experience in World War II. The training was extremely rigorous and included amphibious and airborne training, demolition, small arms training, sabotage, close combat, and use of foreign maps. Communication was also stressed, and much of the training was at night. The 1st, 2nd, and 4th companies were then deployed to Korea, with the 3rd remaining behind to train the remaining 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th companies. Throughout the winter of 1950 and spring of 1951, the Rangers went into battle. They performed missions in front of the main U.S. force, participating in scouting, patrols, raids, and ambushes. They also spearheaded assaults and counterattacked enemy forces. The 1st Ranger Infantry Company once went 9 miles behind enemy lines to destroy the headquarters of the 12th North Korean Division. The 2nd and 4th Ranger Companies made a combat jump at Musan-ni. The 4th Company also executed a daring overwater raid at Hwachon Dam. The 5th Ranger Company performed successfully against the Chinese 5th Phase Offensive. The 8th Ranger Company would later be moved to Europe because of a growing concern of communist interest in expanding west. Then, on October 22, 1951, the emphasis of Fort Benning's Ranger program was changed from training airborne companies to teaching individuals. Less than a month later, the last of the Ranger companies was deactivated. Well, that brings an end to part 2 of the Rangers Trilogy. I hope you liked it, and the final episode shall cover the Rangers from Vietnam to present. As always, this has been True Tactics 2, signing off.